Hello and welcome to the Getting Started with Idea video series presented by Automation Services. The next subject we're going to cover in the Getting Started with Idea series deals with a very common data transport challenge that most people will run into now and again: importing .prn, TXT, or PDF files. These files are typically reports that are formatted and saved to a file directly from a database or ERP system. While they're relatively simple to read, they're usually very difficult to analyze, possibly requiring re-entering the data manually into a spreadsheet or some other tool. Anytime data is retyped, the possibility of errors increases substantially. IDEA has an import assistant called the Report Reader to take that print or PDF data and import it directly from the file into an IDEA database in your project. The process is the same for all three file types, .prn, .txt, or .pdf. Open the Import Assistant by clicking the desktop icon in the Import category on the Home tab. Select Print Report in Adobe PDF from the available file types. Next, open the Select File dialog by clicking the button next to the File Name text box. Click the file you want to import to highlight it, and then click Open to close the dialog and return to the Import Assistant. Clicking Next will open another window called the Report Reader, and this window will contain the data from your print or PDF report. You'll have to look at the report a little differently for the purpose of importing. Print reports are formatted to be read from the top to the bottom. The individual report sections are easy to identify, usually consisting of a report header with information that's related to the whole document, then a subheading that will contain detail or transaction rows directly below it, possibly followed by a subtotal. Then this repeats with another subheading, more transactions or details, and another subtotal until you get to the end of the report that'll possibly contain a grand total and other footer information. To use the report reader, you want to focus on the details contained in the first subheading, the individual transactions. You'll use a transaction row to create the base layer. The base layer will be the foundation for importing the data from your report into an IDEA database. Identify a typical detail row in the first subheading. This will be a row of data that looks similar to the other transaction rows in the dataset. And the best case scenario is for this row to have data in every column that you want to import, but it's not required. Put your mouse pointer on the row, hold the left mouse button, and drag across the row in either direction. IDEA will highlight that row. Release the mouse button, and typically you will accept the default Create a Standard Layer from the dialog box. Then just click Yes to accept the layer. A copy of the detail row you selected will be placed at the top of the window. After inspecting the row, if you decide you chose the wrong row, click the red X on the toolbar to cancel the selection and start over. Now that a good detail row is selected and your base layer is established, move your mouse pointer above the top yellow line. The task now is to identify the pattern in the row of data between the yellow lines. This pattern will also identify the other detail rows in the report. This is what I like to call the artsy part of importing a report, because you get to be a little creative. By typing a sequence of characters or character types above the row, you will identify the remaining detail rows to be imported. If a column always contains the same character every time, I could type a specific character directly above it. The report reader will highlight all of the detail rows in the report that contain that specific character in that specific column for the whole report. Very likely this isn't going to be the case. In this example report, the PIN column always contains a series of digits. The date column always has 2 numbers, a slash, 2 more numbers, a slash, and then 4 numbers. In both examples, the numbers are not the same on every row. Start noticing the pattern in your data, and creating a trap will be much easier. In the column labeled PIN, the numbers are random, so I would use a wildcard to identify the value in the column. There are 4 wildcard types on the toolbar. T is for text. In this trap, we'll select any character. not special characters or numbers, in the column. N is for numeric. This trap will select any row that contains a number 0 through 9 in the column. S is for a space, and this trap will look for and select rows that contain no data, only spaces in the column. And lastly, an X for anything but a space. All numeric, character, and special characters in the column will cause the row to be selected. Placing my mouse above the pen and clicking the N demonstrates trapping rows based on a number being present in the column below the numeric trap. You don't have to start at the margin, and you don't have to place an N over every number in the pen. As long as you can identify the pattern in the base layer row that you chose, the other detail rows will be selected with the trap. Be careful, the wildcards are special traps. Simply typing an uppercase N above the line does not do the same thing as the wildcard. The uppercase N would literally look to trap the detail rows that contain the letter N, upper or lowercase, in that exact position vertically through the report. This also holds for the other three wildcard types, T, S, and X. Once the rows in the report are trapped, it's time to move your mouse pointer between the yellow lines and start creating field anchors. Again, click and hold the left mouse button, drag across the contents of a field to highlight it and release the button. Try to capture the maximum width of the column that might be present in the report. If you don't quite get the whole field, we're going to test for that a little later in the process using a Scan for Errors utility. After the field is highlighted, move to the Field Details panel on the right side of the screen and set the parameters for the field. Name your field. Look at the data type that IDEA defaulted to and decide if it will work when the report is imported. You can change it if needed by clicking on the box. I'm going to define my PIN number as a character field. Now let's select the second field. Date fields are a little bit pickier. You need to match the exact size of the field with your anchor. When you identify a field as a date, IDEA will require you to declare a mask in the field detail that matches the format present on your report. The length of the mask must match the longest date in the report. In this example, I would type a mask of DD/MM/YYYY. Now IDEA knows how to format this column as a date when it's imported into my project. After you've created all the field anchors for the layer, or identified all of the columns that you're interested in, click the green check mark on the toolbar to save the layer and close out the yellow line at the top of the screen. You can create additional layers called Append Layers using the same process. In this report, each detail row is related to a purpose. To make this data easier to analyze once imported, I would create a second layer. This second layer would contain the purpose, and it would be attached to each row in the detail section directly below it. Make sure the purpose row you select as the append layer is directly above the detail row you selected for your base layer. This order of operation is vital, and it's how IDEA knows how to build your database when importing into your project. The report reader understands header information and footer information. So if you were to select a purpose below the section that you chose your detail from, IDEA would consider that a footer, and it would migrate that value upwards instead of downwards. And that would mess your data up once imported into IDEA. To create this append layer, we'll use the same process we did for the details in the base layer. Put your mouse on the row you're interested in, left click and drag to the right. Click Yes to create a standard layer. For this example, I know that the word purpose with a colon is on every row that I'm interested in importing. So I'll type a colon as my trap. As you can see, the purpose row has been highlighted in a little bit lighter blue color. If I scroll down, I'll notice that the next purpose is called training, and it's also highlighted. We'll apply our anchor field, left click and drag, Name the field, leave the type as character, but we have to look at one further attribute. Down in the field details, there's an attribute called blank cells. In order to use one purpose for many detail items, I need to change the blank cells attribute to use value from previous record. By doing so, I've now attached the purpose conference to all of the detail items directly below it until the purpose changes. You can create more layers in the same manner, and the order you create the layers doesn't really matter. The only rule that you have to follow is the most detailed or transactional data rows must be the base layer or the first layer that you create. Click the green check mark to save the layer and remove the yellow lines. Okay, now that our layers are complete and saved, all of the data in the report has been identified. There are a couple of useful utilities to take advantage of that are located on the toolbar. Click the Field Order button to change the order that the fields will be in once imported into IDEA. For example, I want to move the purpose to the top, so it shows as the first column of each row. There's a couple ways to do this. I can left-click on the purpose and drag it to the top and release it, or highlight it and click Move to Top. When I'm satisfied with all of the moves, click OK to close the dialog box. Next, let's click Preview Database. The last button in the toolbar, or it can be found in the File menu also. The Preview Database window opens up, giving you a view of how the data will look once it's imported into your IDEA project. And as you can see, I have a purpose with the detail information that I captured. And if I scroll down, I can see the purpose changes and the appropriate detail items are attached. There's a few things to notice in the preview window. Do the data types that I've chosen make logical sense? The pin, I've identified it as a character and it's left justified. The dates all appear to be importing as a valid date. If I have dollar values, do the number of decimal places match up to the precision that I need in my report? If you find things that need to be changed, simply close the preview window, click the column to open up the field details, and make any modifications in the field details panel. At this time, I want to go back into my report reader window and continue capturing columns for import into my project. To do so, I'm going to right-click on my data and edit the layer. It reopens the trap bar at the top of the screen and allow me to continue adding columns to my report. Left-click and drag and name your column. Choose the data type or leave it default. We'll capture the amount. IDEA defaults to a numeric with 2 decimal places. That looks good so far. I'm going to capture the town. This is where the person was flying to as character. Let's scroll across. We'll grab the name of the airlines, the number of travel miles, and lastly, the travel class. Save your layer by clicking the green check mark. And now we're going to use the last utility that I want to mention today, called Scan for Errors. The little button right here will allow you to check through your report to check for anything that just might be a little off. By clicking the button, the first thing you see is the report reader jumps down to the first occasion where I've captured data, but the assumption is that maybe I missed a little bit. What this utility allows me to do is adjust the offset or where the field starts and the width of the field. I use the little up and down arrows to affect these changes. After I've made my change, I can click Change. IDEA adjusts the width and the starting position of the field for me and jumps to the next suggested change. Since it looks like this one starts in the right spot, all I'm going to do is adjust the width of the column. And you can see I can ignore this change if I deem this to be a properly sized field. Just because the report reader pointed it out as a suggested potential error doesn't mean that it really is. I can stop checking this field And I can click Change and have IDEA check the file to the end of the report. When I get this dialog box, all of the errors, all of the potential suggestions have been checked, and we're OK. Click OK to return to the report reader. If you started the report reader without selecting a template, or this is your first time importing this report, IDEA is going to have you save a template that you just created, identifying all of the columns in the report for future use. The template will be saved in the Import Definitions Library folder in your current project. And you can save the template by clicking the little button here that looks like a computer disk, or going to the File menu and selecting Save Template. The Save Template feature opens up a dialog allowing you to name your template. By default, it's going to save the template in the Import Definitions Library folder in your project. Click Save to close the dialog, and then import your data. You can import the data by clicking the button on the toolbar, or choosing File and Import Report into IDEA. The Import Assistant dialog opens back up and allows you to name your database and click Finish. Doing so imports a copy, a read-only copy of the data from your report, your print report, your text report, or your PDF report into IDEA as a database. At this time, it's a good idea to do a couple of integrity checks. You can see how many rows you imported by looking at the lower right corner of your IDEA software. You can also choose Control Total from the properties. Choose the column and OK, and IDEA will place the total value for that column as a property in the Properties panel. Now next month, when you have to import this same report with a new set of data, you're going to use that template that you saved on the first go-around. And the way that you'll do that is twofold. From the Home tab, choose the desktop icon, click Print Report and Adobe PDF, navigate by using the button next to the file name to identify your report, and click Open. There's another text box in the Import Assistant that says Optional Template File. Choose the button next to the text box, and IDEA opens a Select File dialog to the Import Definitions folder. Choose your template, click Open, and I want you to get in the habit of always checking the Edit Template box. What the Edit Template box does is open the report with the template applied. This allows you to check to make sure that this new set of data that you're importing, all of the fields still line up, all of the widths are correct, all of the layers are in the proper place. Click Next to open up the report reader. See that your template is applied properly. Scan it for errors, just to make sure. Maybe preview the data to see how it's going to look once it's imported. Make sure that everything's still to your liking, and import your data into IDEA. You can name the file with a new name, and click Finish to import the new version of the data. During this Getting Started video, we stepped through the process of importing a print or PDF report, defined the details or transaction level data, defined the subsection or header data, checked the field positions and the width of each individual column, saved a template to use on future reports, and finally imported the report data directly into your IDEA project as a read-only copy of the data. If you have questions, need more information or assistance importing print or PDF reports into your project, give the Automation Services Help Desk a call at 888-641-2800 and choose option 4. Thanks, and make it a great day.